Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm here to bring you another Global Monthly Video Hop. So once a month, myself and demonstrators from around the world put videos up for people to watch based on a theme. And the theme for June is techniques. So if you look in the description below my video, you will find links to all the other demonstrators who are participating this month. And if you click on those links, you'll see different techniques that you can use for paper crafting with Stampin' Up! Products. So the technique I'm going to show you is, I would call it stamping with your embossing folders, or basically inking up your embossing folders. And you can use it with any type of embossing folder that gives you a nice impression. And depending on how you use this technique or which side of the folder you ink up, you will get different looks. Now, before I forget, in the description below, as I said, there will be links to the other demonstrators who are participating, but there will also be, I'll also show you the products that I use in this demonstration. So if you wish to purchase any of them, you can easily get the names and the product codes from the description, and you can go and purchase from any of your demonstrators. If you're in New Zealand and don't already have a demonstrator, I would love to be your demonstrator. You can go to my site, michellekritchley.steppinup.net, and then you can order directly from there, or find out how to contact me if you wish to order any of the products that I show you today, or any of the other videos that I have. So make sure you subscribe so you will know when the next video comes out, and you can look back at any of my previous videos as well. So this is the card that we're going to do, or similar card, and it's also a Z-fold card. I've shown this sample in one of the other videos when I was showing how to do fun folds. So if you want to know how to do this style of card, a different style of this type of card, you can watch one of those other videos. But now I'm going to show you actually how to create this card, which I did briefly show in one of the other previous videos. So this, the brick look, is actually an embossing folder, and so you can see how it's raised up in certain areas and pressed down in others. And then the front, this is what it looks like when you emboss it just regularly on cardstock, plain. But if you add ink to the embossing folder before you put it through, you end up with color and texture on it. So I'm going to show you how to make this card. I'm just going to show you briefly different looks. So that's the same. That was my first sample, giving it a go. So that's the same shape essentially, but that is with different cardstock and a different color. And you can see how it presses it through certain parts of the embossed sections. And see the back, with no color on that side of the folder, it comes out just normal. But when you add color, you get so much more impression on it. And I love the brick embossing folder just for that, so you can get those looks. And I'll show you some other samples at the end about other ways to use your embossing folders with the ink. So using the brick and mortar embossing folder, it's a 3D embossing folder. I'll explain to you how to get the sandwich right when you put it through your cut and embossing machine. The bundle I'm using today is the Garden Meadow stamps and the Garden Meadow dies. Now I'm only using a few of the dies from here. I'm going to change one of the dies up for this video. But this is an online exclusive. You won't see it in any of the catalogs, but you'll be able to find it online if you look that up. And again, I said in the description, I'll be having the product names and the codes showing, so you can look it up that way as well. So also in that suite of products, there's these beautiful papers. I think they're still available. It's the Meadering Meadow papers. And with these papers, they have lovely images on one side, different meadow images. I've shown these in some other previous videos. That's the same. So different meadows with little pathways going through them. And then the back side is usually just solid colors. Very good designer series paper. This is the 6x6 inch paper. So that's the image that I'm going to use. And then you need your card base. So I just went with the basic white card base. So how you do this is you have your card base, whatever size for whatever country you're in. Here in New Zealand, it's a A6 size, so you cut an A4 in half to give you an A5 piece, score it down the middle, you get an A6 piece. One side of that, you're going to score that in half. Sorry about the shadow, it's the lighting in this room isn't the best. Getting the shadow from the, I'm noticing I'm getting the shadow from the camera on here. But anyway, so you score one half of it in half, and you're going to fold that back. Now that is approximately just over 5 centimeters wide, because half of this card, that's 10.5 centimeters. So you're going to score that in half, which comes out to 5.25 centimeters, or close enough. So you want that scored in half, and that gives you your Z-fold card, which you can do lots of things with. There's lots of videos online about things using the Z-fold. But for this, what we're doing is we're putting a front onto it. So then you want another piece of basic white, the same size as the front of your card. So that piece would be like this. So it would be 10.5 by 14.85 or 14.9 if you want. That gives you the same size as the one half of the card. So that gives you the card front. Then using this large die here, it's kind of like a window, it looks like, or a walkway, curved die there. I cut through that piece. So I've already done that. I've already die cut that piece. So we'll pop that piece here. So that piece was 10.5 centimeters by 14.85. And then I just eyeballed and die cut through the center. Now you might be thinking, why didn't you just emboss it first and then cut it? Well, that way, if I die cut it first, I can use this for another card if I want. Or what I've gone ahead and already done is I've already stamped the images that I need on that spare piece here. So those are the images I need, and I've already gone and colored them with the watercolor pencils. So I've got 2 different flower images and the quail, and then I stamped the word hello, which I'm going to punch out. These ones I'm going to die cut with the Garden Meadows dies. So I've got the dies that I'm going to cut these sections out to decorate the front. And I've just used the watercolored pencils and then just a water painter to blend the pencil lines to make it look smoother. So I'm just going to cut those out. So that way I don't have this as scrap, but you could always use that on another card. And then I'm going to punch the hello out, but I'm going to do that after I die cut these, because the punch I'm using, I'll have to look up the name, I'll put it in the description. This punch here does like an outer wavy one and an inner oval. But the part I want is on the inside, and if I punch it now, I'm going to punch through those images. So I'm going to die cut those images, then I'm going to punch the word hello out in the oval. Now I've already stamped them with shaded spruce ink. Where'd they go? So I've stamped those with shaded spruce ink just because they're mainly leaves. And then I've stamped the quail in Memento Black. And as I said, I've colored them in with some of the watercolor pencils. I can tell you the colors I used. So I've used Granny Apple Green and Garden Green around the grassy area and the leaves. Then I've used the pencil that's just called blue for those flowers there. I've used Daffodil Delight for those flowers. And then for the quail, I've used a combination of Daffodil Delight, Pecan Pie, and Early Espresso Oh, let's see, there we go. And then just kind of blended them together with a brush. And then at the bottom, I used those 3 colors, and then I added a bit of Night of Navy and Fresh Freesia to give, oh, there we go, give it a little coloration down at the bottom. That's because the image I'm using has those colors in the pathway. Okay. So the Designer Series paper, because it's 6 inches across, and that's wider than the card base, I've gone ahead and I've cut the image into 3 sections, and they're about 5 centimeters each. It's actually 2 inches. Each strip is 2 inches wide, which gives you exactly 3 because they're 6-inch strips. And then I just realized I need to trim off either the top or the bottom. I think I'll trim a bit off the top to make it fit the height of the cardstock. So I will trim that off the camera, but as you can see, if you don't trim it off, when you put it on there, it's going to be that much too long. Okay, so I'm going to trim that off, and I want to keep a little bit of the white image around the edge. So I will probably trim that off to about 14.3 centimeters high. I could have done that before I cut the strips. And then I'm also using, my original one I used, is that Mossy Meadow, I believe, for that, the outside of the sentiment. But there's more greens, there's lighter colors on this image. So I think I might go with the Granny Apple Green. I will see what it looks like when I get to that stage. So I've got to die cut those bits, and now the important part is the technique you want to learn. So for the technique, you get your embossing folder, and I don't know if you've ever had a close look, but one side has the name Stampin' Up and it has a line. The other side will have where it's made. Now the line there, just a little tip to you, is for lining up your paper. So if you're putting a piece of paper in and the image that you're going to emboss is straight, like this has got bricks, and you want to make sure that it comes out straight, you line it up on the white. Now trying to close that with that lined up is difficult, so you can just turn it over and then set your cardstock on there. And so I'm lining that up. If you can see, there's the line here where my finger's pointing, and you can line your cardstock up right against there, and that will give you perfect alignment. Now for this, because we want color to show up on it, we're going to get our ink. I'm going to use gray granite. That other sample I showed you had the red colors in it because it looked more like brick, but I'm going for kind of the white gray look. And to do this, one side of your embossing folder is raised up that pushes into the other side, and that forces the paper to be embossed. The other way around, when you turn your paper the other way, it actually is debossed. So having a look, that's the embossed side, and that's the debossed side. So here the bricks are pushed down, that's debossed, and here the bricks are up, and the mortar side is pushed down, so that's embossed. So if you want your image to be pushed down where the embossing is, you want to ink up the side that has the name Stampin' Up on it. And you don't need to ink up the whole thing because, as you can see, my card won't fill the whole thing up. So I'm just going to ink up wide enough for where my cardstock's going to go. And you just want to press it not too hard. If you press it too hard, you get some of the ink on the inside of the bricks, but it's up to you. If you press it gently, you could even swipe it if you want, but swiping doesn't give you quite as much ink showing up, but it gives you a different effect. So give it a try. Okay, so I've just gently inked up that side of the folder. So as you can see, where the gray is, that's where the color is going to go on the card. If I inked up this side, I can show you, I'll show you just quickly, and then I'll wipe it off. But if I ink up this side, actually I don't need to wipe it off, it'll just be the inside, but you'll be able to see it. So that side, when I ink it up, the bricks would be colored, and what would be the mortar would not be colored. So you'd have that look on either side. So I can wipe that off, or I can leave it on, and you'll see the difference once we're done. And I might as well, if I'm going to do that, I'll just ink it all up. And you can see the difference on the whole thing when I'm done. And that way you can actually choose which side to color. So depending on your embossing folder, you can get some really interesting looks by inking it up. So now I'm going to put my card, which I've already die cut the center. I'm going to use that line to line up the edge so it's a nice straight even brick, and then I'm just going to close it. Now as long as I don't move that, it should be fine. When I put it in the embossing folder, because it's a 3D folder, which is slightly thicker than the normal folders, you need to follow the instructions on your embossing plate. So this is the base plate number 1, and it says down here, using 3D embossing folders. And it shows that we should have plate 1, should have the embossing folder with the paper inside, with the folded end going in, so that direction. So that's the fold. Always put it through with the fold, never bring it back out the other way. And then at the top, we have number 4, which is a slightly thicker plate, and this is for embossing folders. It says this is not a cutting surface. So number 1, embossing folder, folded end with our paper in the inside, and plate number 4 on top. That is our sandwich. So we're not using any of the cutting plates. I'm going to go emboss this and come back and let you see what it looks like. While I'm at it, I will also cut out the other pieces we need for this card. Okay, so I've done that, and here's our folder. Now I'm going to open up the folder. Now that was the part that we weren't going to use, although I might do. And this is the other side. So see, on that side, because it was raised, it forced the ink through the part that was pressing down. So we got, it looks like the mortar is gray mortar on white bricks. This side, it just looks like we've got some brownie speckled bricks. But I just wanted to show you the difference. So if you have embossing folders, give it a go. Ink up different sides, put different scrap papers through, and see how it looks. So that's the side we're actually going to use. You could do it with different colors if you want. And then I've gone and die cut our little images. Now I forgot to mention another die that I'm going to use, and I've punched out the word hello, is for the grassy mound there. I just wanted to give it some interest in the card. The dies that come with this set, they've got 3 different ones. So I used that on my original one. That's kind of like a hedge look. There's one that looks like it goes grass and then maybe a rock, a big line there. This time around, I thought I would use the one that looks like grass. So for that section, I need a piece that's going to be wide and the same width. So that's 10.5 centimeters wide and tall enough to cover the bottom section. Now I can move it down as I wish, but I need it to be so high enough so this die, which is quite a curved die, will cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. So I'm just going to put that up towards the top. There you go. And I'm going to cut that. Doesn't matter how far down it is, I can trim it off. And doesn't matter if I don't go right to the edges, because again, I can trim off the edges. You won't be seeing that. So I will die cut that because I forgot to do that while I was doing the others. So this die just cuts the grassy section, and it doesn't go straight to the edge unless you have it right at the edge of your paper. So I'm just going to snip the side bits out. So it doesn't really matter, it's not going to be seen. And I'm just going to come up there, take the top part off. Now that could be used for another card if you want it that kind of a look. So there's our grassy part. And where's my card base? Okay. So I've already cut my paper, and I'm going to stick that down now. And let's get my glue. Hopefully it's cooperating. So when you put it down, make sure you got your order of images correct. So that's the order we're going with, the pathway to the right. So on this side, we're going to put, oh, I haven't trimmed the top down. Oh, bear with me. So I've just trimmed that much off the top. Could be used for something else if you want. So let's go back to making sure we're doing it the right direction. There we go. That's our seam. And this is going to go onto this side here. You're not actually going to see the top or the bottom of this piece because it'll be covered with the front section. So we're going to pop that there. Easier to have it opened up. Depending on how you did your score line, you might have a bit of white showing or not. And I find using the glue best because you can wiggle it into place. And then the next part of our seam is going to go here. And just pop some glue there. And I'll just stick that in place, make sure the seam lines up. And that's why liquid glue is good for this, because you can wiggle it into place. If it has a little bit of white between it, that's fine. But you don't want it to be impeding on the fold, so you want to be able to fold it without anything impeding on that fold. And then the last section is going to go over here. So it looks like it's that side of the path, but through the image, we're going to, through the peek through, we're going to see this side of it. So pop that there, and then that gives you that white space to write your message on. So we're going to pop this over here. Leave a little bit of white around the edge so it kind of marries up with the whiteness on the top and the bottom. If we fold this over, we can see. We'll just slide that over slightly. Now it doesn't need to marry up completely because that's actually a slightly different image because it's the other side of here, but it just looks somewhat similar down the center. Okay, so that's there. Now, where's the piece I cut? So this piece is going to go here, but you only want to glue half of it because you don't want to glue the card shut. And we need to look at it through our little brick window. So depending on how much grass you want to appear, we could have it that far down or we could raise it up. So we could have a lot of grass showing. And it all depends on what you have in the background image, if you want to cover something up or have something more showing. Now, when I did my first one, I noticed it just looked a bit plain. So I actually sponged on that green hedge there, and I think I will do that on here as well. So I'll just get my sponge out, not sponge, I got the blending brush and the shaded spruce. So this is garden green, and then I've got shaded spruce. Now those are all colors that are in this designer series paper, and if you want to know what colors you have in your paper, you simply look at the pack and it will tell you the size and what colors are in that pack. Online, before you buy the paper, if you look at the description, it will tell you the same. So I'm just going to put a bit of scrap paper down here, so when I sponge it's not going to make a mess everywhere or blend. So you want to take your blending brush, do a few circles to get some ink on there. Now it might not look like there's a lot of ink on there, but there is. See? So don't do it till it's covered in ink. Just do a little bit. You can blend a bit off. And because it's very thin at the top, you don't want to blend towards it because you're going to end up bending your little grass parts. So you want to blend up and out. And since the bottom's not going to be seen, if you start on the bottom and go up, if you have any big splotches, they're going to be in a section that's not going to be seen. So, I don't know, this lighting's not that good. It's not showing up very well for you on the camera. Let's see if we can get it to show up better. So I'll start down and blend up. And I'm just holding the tip of the brush so I can get better control over what's going where. And it's just going to give us a bit of a darker green, blend in more with the background colors, but not as dark as if I cut it in the shaded spruce color. Now you can see there is definitely color going on there because you can see it coming off on the paper. And I'm not sure if you can, so if you look at that side and then compare, see how bright green that is compared to that? So there is some color change going on. Okay, so that's just to give it a little bit of texture and make it not quite so bright. Now coming back with a card, deciding on where to place that. I think placing it right to the bottom is probably good enough. So the green part I can stick right to the bottom of our frame. Oh, I want that part to go down. So we'll just put glue just at the edge and then a little bit there. So I'm going to place that onto the bottom, and I'm using liquid glue so I can just gently wiggle it into place to line it up, because this is exactly the same width as the piece that I embossed. There you go. So there's our start of our scene. And now we're going to stick this down, and we only want it stuck on one half because we don't want to have the card stuck shut. And so when it opens, that's the scene you're going to see through the window part. When it's shut, you get that interesting scene. So I'm just going to eyeball it, goes to about that part, and just put glue on the section on the side that I want it to glue onto. And that part comes to about here. Okay, so only glue the half that you want to glue down. And again, just set it in place and then just wiggle it to where you want it to be. So we'll just wiggle it right up to the edges, make sure our edges are nice and smooth. We can turn it over and check nothing's hanging over the side. When you're happy with that, get your bone folder to help you rub it down. Don't press too hard because you don't want to push down your embossed section, or you can turn it over the other side and give it a bit of burnishing. And there you go. So that is the front of our card so far. So that's the scene you see through there, and then you open it right up. Now, I forgot, I want to stamp the Thinking of You on the inside. And I will do that in the shaded spruce. But you want to do that after you've glued your inside part, so you know where it's going to sit. So when we close it, we're not going to see the words, we're going to see it when we open it. So we're just going to put Thinking of You right there. That's done in shaded spruce. And now we're going to stick the rest of the bits together. So I'm just trying to think if I want that to be in the green like I had for there, or if I want to pick up some of that is that Granny Apple Green or Lemon Lime Twist? That's Granny Apple Green. That's what it is. So I've just got some scrap Granny Apple Green, and I'm just going to punch the top section of this punch just to give me an interesting out oval. And that, yeah, I think I like that better because it blends better with those colors there. So glue on the hello. I had it stamped on both sides of that cardstock because one was too close to the edge. Grab it there and then you can wiggle it into place. I'll put my other elements on. So I'm going to put my quail, look like they're in the path. So put our quail on the inside. Look like they stopped in the path to just have a look around. I'm going to glue those guys flat on the inside toward the bottom of that pathway. And then on the outside, I'm going to use some dimensionals to pop some bits up on the outside. Let me decide where I want these to go. Yeah, I think that looks good that way. So just pop a dimensional on the back. Kind of coming out of the frame section. And for here, I'm going to take some half dimensionals. So if you only have one size dimensionals, like you have the large dimensionals, you can just cut them into sections to fit whatever. So I cut those in half and they fit just nicely. Or you have the many dimensionals, those should be just fine there as well. So now I'm going to pop this guy. I think I'll put him a bit lower because this grass is quite tall. And then for here, I only want the dimensionals in 1/2 because I'm going to stick it on only one side. So I quite often cut my dimensionals half like that so I can use different sections. Let me make sure I've got the right side going on there. And right about there. And just pop that just to cover that top section. There you go. So there we go. So you learned the technique of inking up your embossing folders. So I kind of call it stamping with embossing folders. And then also we also had the technique of the blending brush ink on the die cut. And so there you go. So you open it up. You've got the hello, lovely interesting scene there looking out the window, and then thinking of you. So when it stands, you've got that lovely image there. And so this was the first one that I did. And that image is quite dark on that side. It doesn't quite go very well, but it does when you come to the pathway, because if you have a look, the quail are walking straight through the pathway on that one. So this designer series paper has a lot of really good images for you there. So those are the cards. The technique is inking your embossing folder. And so you have the look there. On this one we can actually see, because I did both sides, so you can see the other side of it. And I'll show you a couple others done slightly differently. But now I don't know where I put the samples. Okay, so with this one, this is embossing folder, but it wasn't inked before, so you don't have the nice solid. It was, the ink was spread on the folder afterwards, so you just gently take your pad and gently brush it on the folder afterwards, and it'll catch anything that's sticking up. So the raised part, the embossed part that's raised, will catch any of the ink that goes across it. Now the other ones, so with this one here, the embossing folder, so I had inked it up and then you got it right around the edges. That's why all the edges are perfectly inked. But then I sponged afterwards and got colors in different sections of it. So that shows you another use of inking your embossing folder. And this one here, I might take it out so you can have a good look at it. This was doing the technique with vellum. So I taught this in a class. I think I might even have a video of this. So this is vellum. So you can emboss on vellum as well. And it's the same technique, but here it's the deboss section. So I put the ink on the back side of the embossing folder and it pressed the ink into the parts that were pressed down, and the parts sticking up were not inked. And this is on vellum, so if you are doing it on vellum, then you need to leave it to dry for quite a while. You can use your heat gun to dry it if you want. However, sometimes that will make the vellum bend. So if you're going to do this technique, do it and then leave it to dry for quite a while. And so you can see that's the back side of it. Because it's vellum, it's see-through, and then I had a little scrap that I cut off to use here. So that forced it through on the part that was pressed down. Okay, so those are different examples of using your embossing folder, using ink on your embossing folder. I hope you enjoyed that. Please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you look in the description below to hop over to the other technique videos. I'm not sure what else other people will have, but I can't wait to see it because we have some very clever people in the global monthly video hop. Thanks so much for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye.